Well, welcome back, compadres. Welcome back to another episode of Due Date, the true legend of Dusty Cantina. Gunslinger, librarian. We find Dusty trying to figure out how exactly did the mayor get a hold of some government ephemera that his pa ordered and his ma cataloged. So here it is. Chapter 7. Dusty, the Lariat Kid, and the Yeller Pencils. They say Dusty weren't no squawking Sally, even at the best of times, but as she mulled over the mystery of the ephemera and the one-legged librarian, she was every bit as still as a red-tailed hawk looking for a supper swimming in a stream. The intensity of her stare, combined with the smoldering reek of burnt hair, was making Mayor Percy squirm a little. "So, Mr. Mayor," she said at last, "what say you tell me something more about your dealings with this high country feller? I can't help but be a mite curious as to how he got his hands on this singular government document, one that my pa done ordered and my ma done cataloged." "'Tain't much to tell," insisted the mayor. He fidgeted a bit, trying to cradle his bleeding hand and suss out whether he was missing anything more serious from his face than a bit of mustache at the same time. "I was riding up in the high country, looking for some stream flow data and good summer pasturing for my stock, and I came across this traveling, one-legged librarian." "How do you know he was traveling?" asked Dusty. "Ain't nobody settles up there," said Mayor Percy, with the sure knowledge of someone who lived in the area the whole of his life. "And how did you know he was a librarian?" asked Dusty. "He had this wagon," said the mayor, "filled with a whole mess of pamphlets and such, and he was making them freely available. Now this wagon was filled with ephemera and had a sign painted on the side that said Ephemera Wagon. When I asked him how he came up with the name, he said that's just what it was." "That sure sounds like a librarian, sure enough," said Honest Mike. The onlookers nodded and muttered in reluctant agreement, and it looked as if the story was all set to go forward, until Medium Mama pushed the kid forward from the corner where she had been talking to him, mother to son like. "Tell the man you're sorry you shot his mustache off," she said in a tone that had every man in the place looking over his shoulder for his ma, looking like he had done something he shouldn't have. "You know I done taught you better than that," she announced in terms that brooked no messing with. The kid shuffled forward and addressed the floor immediately in front of his dusty shoes. "I'm sort of sorry I shot the tip of your mustache off, Mayor." A clearing of his mother's voice drew an immediate amendment to the apology. "I mean, I'm really sorry." The kid rocked from side to side a bit. "And," prompted Mama, intent on making sure that the boy got his apology right, "and I know what I did was wrong, and that I should explore other avenues of de-escalating conflict if it happens," said the kid, clearly reciting something that had been drilled into him quite recently. Dusty looked between Medium Mama and her boy with a curious expression. And what might those avenues be in the Wild West? The kid looked up at Dusty. Ma says I should use my lariat, he said, bringing up a rope that had been loosely hanging from his belt. She makes me practice all the time. A slow smile spread over Dusty's face. And what does your ma think you could do with that? She asked. The kid looked over at his ma, who nodded back at him. Show your Aunt Dusty what you can do with your rope, boy. Yes, ma'am, said the kid. Immediately, there was a scraping of furniture and the furtive shuffling of feet as the literary circle and the other patrons of the bar cleared a wide circle out of the boy's orbit. A sensible precaution, as lariat spinning is generally an outdoor type of activity requiring plenty of room. The boy began to spin his lariat, smooth circles looping around him as sure as a red-tailed hawk circling in the warm summer breeze. Dusty couldn't help but smile as, without seeming to move a muscle, the kid shot out his rope and snagged the pistol right out of Dusty's hand. With a twitch of his lariat, the kid sent the pistol soaring to land with a clatter on the bar. Another loop, and the wheel of rope picked up a spare glass of beer from the bar and deposited it in Dusty's hand. Another flick of his wrist, and the rope was neatly a loop in the kid's hand. Dusty raised an eyebrow and shook her head with an approving grin. That's mighty fine rope work, son, she said. She took a sip of the gifted beer. She makes me practice every day, the kid muttered, even when I don't want to. Dusty seemed powerful entertained by the display. She put down the beer and fetched up her pistol back and looked quite relaxed as she trained it once again on the mare. I just think I might just call you the Lariat Kid. The kid stood a little taller. Now, as I recall, before we all had a chance to watch my nephew at work, the mayor was telling us a story, Dusty said. I was telling you everything, said Mayor Percy. I might put out. You don't need to keep leveling that gun at me no more. With a shrug, Dusty lowered the pistol to its holster. No one in the place had any doubt that she could draw it and fire it fast enough if she saw any need. She gave the mayor a nod, and he took his seat, clearly relieved to be able to rest what remained of his hand on the table while he resumed his tale. Well, like I was saying, I told that feller in the ephemera wagon that I was needing some stream flow data for the past 10 years or so, and he took my library card and told me I needed to fill out this little blue request slip. He even let me use one of them little yeller pencils that he had tied next to his desk like. Yellow pencils, murmured the literary society of the saloon in awed appreciation. We've been running short of them little yellow pencils ever since Platte County stopped shipping them to us, Medium Mama explained to Dusty in an undervoicey. After you know, Platte County four flushers, muttered Three Teeth. 2-bit, added the Lariat Kid. There ought to be a law, said Honest Mike, about library districts inflicting such tomfoolery on honest patrons such as ourselves. The tone of the room was turning a mite ugly, like a red-tailed hawk thundering down on a prairie dog. Yes, sir, a law, came Seymour's voice back from the front of the saloon, where he had clearly returned to consciousness and consequently resumed drowning his sorrows, now including library issues and a bottle of rot good. "We got a right to them yeller pencils, gold durn it, I hear tell," said Forgetting Henry. They got boxes of pencils stashed away in Platte County. Boxes after boxes of 'em, stacked floor to ceiling. Why, anyone could go in and grab a handful, and not a soul would say nothing to you about it. I even heard tell." Honest Mike lowered his voice so as to not in theory sully the young innocent sensibilities of the kid, who was actually hanging on every word. "They ain't normal pencils, not like the normal yellow ones we got." He paused and looked around to make sure there were no preacher folk about. "They's purple." There was a collective gasp of horror. Encouraged, he went on. "That's right, purple. And them there purple pencils even have Platte County written on the side of them in raised gold type." "That ain't right," whispered Lonesome Paco in shock and disapproval. "That's the devil's work. Purple pencil using Platte County for flushing patrons, hogging all our genre fiction while they say their collection is a study collection for in-library use only," said Three Teeth. "Study collection, my patootie." He spat again. "Too bad," added the kid. The mood was getting a mite testy when Dusty pointed her pistol and plugged another hole in the ceiling. It joined its siblings up there, as shooting upwards, generally, was the preferred method of getting folks to settle down in the town of Dry Gulch when things were getting riled up. As per usual, the shot quieted the conversation. "Sorry, Dusty. Sorry, miss. Won't happen again, ma'am." "Auntie Dusty," said the kid, "was that an appropriate de-escalation of the situation?" "Sorry, kid," said Dusty. "I think that Lariat of yours is just dandy, but it didn't seem like the right tool to settle the boys down just then." She patted him on the head and gave him a reassuring smile. "You'll understand more when you're older, kid." Honest Mike contemplated the holes in his ceiling. "One good thing about having a drought," he said philosophically, "is that all them holes up thar don't let any rain in, 'cause there ain't any rain to speak of anyways." "But they sure help keep the air circulating," added Three Teeth, "so all that tobacco smoke has some place to go." "Sets up a mite fine airflow in the room," added Medium Mama. "Too bad," added the kid. Everyone looked at him. His mother nudged him discreetly. "Mighty fine," the kid amended as the crowd turned away, mollified. "Sorry, Dusty," Medium Mama said to Dusty. "He's handy with his rope, but sometimes the boy doesn't turn the page at the same time as everyone else." For a moment, it looked like Dusty were having what them thar Eastern doctor folk have taken to calling a migraine. She put her hand up to her brow and closed her eyes, almost prayerfully, though most likely she was just praying for the patients to not pull out her gun and shoot something or the other. At any rate, most folks decided it were a good time to settle down and let Dusty sit a spell in peace. It had been a big day for her, what with her homecoming and seeing something cataloged by her ma and all the shooting and whatnot. So, since they accepted Dusty as one of their own, it were no trouble for the Barfolk Literary Society to wait real polite like for her to collect herself. For a moment or two, it was right peaceful in the place, the only sounds being the slosh of the mare's blood dripping on the soft pine floor. Taking a deep breath and counting to 10 seemed to help her some, composure-wise, and after a bit, Dusty felt ready to speak. "I think the mayor was telling us a story," she said softly, "and I, for one, would like to hear it." She turned back to the mayor. "You say you filled out one of them little blue cards with a yeller pencil. What happened next?" That's Dusty for you. She paid attention to things and could follow the main thread of a narrative like a red-tailed hawk chasing a rabbit, or a cataloger trying to figure out whether to put something in the biographer section or the subject area that the object of the biographer were best known for. Like whether a book about Mozart was more about his life and should go in with the other biographies, or was more about the whys and wherefores of his concertos and should go in the music section. Sometimes herding them biographies is hard on a librarian. Wouldn't want that kind of work myself. Give me riding herd on a head of cattle any day. Anyways, Dusty weren't one to drop something till it were all rassled out. It was clear that Dusty aimed to get at the bottom of this quandary as well, no matter how many holes in the roof it might take to get there. Good thing it was summer during a drought. Well, that's it for this episode of Due Date, the true legend of Dusty Cantina, gunslinger, librarian. Were written by Dan McLaughlin and Margaret Elin Schmidt. Read by Dan McLaughlin and produced by the fine folk at Totally Honest Productions. Something on your mind? Shoot us an email at djng@earthlink.net and be sure to like us where you hear us. That's it for now. See ya at the library. Bye-bye.